Love it. Love it. Okay, so we got a couple of banger stories here. Where should we start? Should we start next door? Should we start here in Canada?
No, we start internationally. We move our way north, and
okay.
I think the furthest south we could start is in Southern California, which is the LA fires. That's a lot of folks are capitalizing. Well, you know what? Let's be before we even go there. Their mayor Karen Bass. You heard? I can't believe she was apparently in Africa at the time when these fires broke out. She has been quite a jet setter. She's been to Mexico for the president's inauguration over there. She's been to Paris 3 times during the Olympics. So she's been doing her level best to travel around. It's funny because California, they pride themselves on a state that they want to reduce smog and emissions. And they're going to be banning the sale of internal combustion engine cars in 10 years' time in 2035. And here you are, you see the mayor. Now, maybe she's doing good work. I don't know. But just on the surface, the optics, one could say they look terrible. But either way, let's talk about the fires themselves. And obviously, there's a lot of people there that are impacted heavily. And they're still, with that, people are trying to capitalize on other people's losses. So our friend, Elizabeth Warren, we haven't talked about her in a while. She's truly a no-coiner. And, well, January 11th, she posted on X as a way to donate money to the United Way of Greater Los Angeles and the Los Angeles Fire Department Foundation. There's a link that she provided in which you can make a donation. The problem with the link, it goes to an Act Blue website. According to Wikipedia, Act Blue is an American Democratic Party political action committee, so a PAC. And it started in 2004. So it's a major part of the Democrat Party, their fundraising infrastructure. This is according to Wikipedia. Community notes came out almost immediately after Elizabeth Warren posted this, saying that this is not a link to the charity, it's a link to the Democratic fundraising party. They take almost 4%, 3.95% of the transactions. So if you're doing this, you're indirectly giving some money to the Democratic Party.
What a piece of shit. What a disrespectful, despicable piece of shit she is.
I look at this, and it seems like it's an underhanded way to capitalize on people's kindness, and at a time when people have lost all of their possessions, right? Even worse, people are not only will they be financially compensated because the fire insurance, they couldn't even retain that for their homes. So like people lost like their good, like the shit they owned, they'll never be compensated. Pets have been lost. Some people have died. Like here you are, Elizabeth Warren. This is why you are not just a no coiner of the week, but a no coiner Hall of Fame doing this fucking bullshit. Like there's nothing that can be said about how bad this is. No. Look at yourself in the mirror and hopefully like you could correct this moving forward. But she hasn't yet. It was still there. January 11th was posted, still there. Like it hasn't been changed. Either way, like
that's stealing from people is what it is. How else would you describe that? What other way to characterize that is there besides stealing? You didn't say anything
about
it.
Such a misdirection.
You didn't say anything. I know. You didn't say anything. And by the way, like you have the state that pays the highest tax in the nation in California, and you're asking people for money out of their pocket for a fire relief. Like that is like the number of things wrong with that is innumerable, but we'll try and put our finger on a few of them. Just the audacity for Elizabeth Warren, who claims that she is in the business of consumer protection. Okay, whether it's at the level of price gouging, at the level of risky banking practices, her words, not mine. And this is what she does on Twitter. She's fucked. It's despicable. This is the kind of thing that like you should lose your job over. You should be publicly disgraced over this. But nothing will happen. There's no consequences for this. Is this worse than anything Trump did during the campaign? Like yeah, of course it is. Trump never tried to steal from people. Okay, does he sell some shitty stuff? Yeah, but at least you know you're buying shitty stuff. You know, he doesn't tell you you're getting a Rolex and then send you a Trump University commemorative Timex. You know, like this is just it's on another level, is it not?
It's
pretty
shitty. Like to get a slice of the pie. You know, if I'm donating money and I'm thinking it's coming out of my pocket at a time when things are challenging to make ends meet, and I'm going to try to give it to people that need it over there, these agencies that truly need it, that maybe help people out, and you're skimming at the top almost 4%. Like, come on, man. Like, if she was upfront and if she said, and I'll give her credit if she did this, if she said, look, this is going to be 4% is coming to the Democratic Party if you do donate, I would say, you know what? There's honesty there. She's upfront. People donate. At least they understand what the fuck. There's a, you know, it's all she had to say. It's all she had to fuck or write. If she did that, wipe your hands and say, you know, it's kind of scummy, but at least you're upfront. But she didn't do that, man. Like, no, come on.
It's shameful. Are we going to talk about the fires?
Well, it's incredible that California.
Go hard here. Don't hold back. I can see you're thinking about holding back. Do not hold back.
No. If it was its own country, what would it be? Like 2 or 3 or 4 in terms of like GDP, the most.
Yeah, it's high. It's high. Yeah.
Right. Like it generates more wealth than almost every country in the world, and it's a state. And then it's part of the country that generates the most wealth, the United States. And in an area where it had all these mansions, so a lot of money was there.
Yeah.
They can't fucking get water to their fire hydrants.
To the rainbow fire hydrants.
How
they
fucking
can't figure it out.
Like, it's not like they don't have water nearby. There's fucking salt water just a little bit west, so much of it. Granted, pumping that might fucking cause real damage to the equipment, but at least you can temporarily bring it in and use that to. But like, incredible that you have this such a powerful country in a powerful state in a powerful county. They don't have something as basic as water to douse fires. Holy fuck. They hired the wrong fucking people to do the jobs. And on top of that, you brought it up in a chat. We talked about they were fucking stealing fire hydrants last year.
Sure did.
People were stealing fire hydrants because they were taking that for scrap metal. And I wonder how many of these fire hydrants were replaced.
Well, they can't replace them with stop signs like they could with traffic lights, right? These guys don't punish anyone. They don't punish any behaviors. They don't replace things that are being stolen because they don't want to have them stolen again. They have DEI mayor, DEI fire chief, DEI commander. This woman has the audacity. By the way, she's like 200 pounds overweight. Disgusting. Absolutely embarrassing for someone who's got a physical job or is physical job adjacent to look like that. It's shameful and embarrassing for any gender. She gets on. She's got a clip floating around. There's a clip floating around of her talking about, you know, if I can carry out your husband from a fire. And her response is, if your husband needs to be carried out from a fire, he's in the wrong place anyways. That person should be executed. Okay. This is the kind of thing that costs people lives, right? How many people died in those fires?
I have
that fire department hired that person for a position of leadership, for a position that plays a role model both in the community and in the agency. That person is responsible for outreach, responsible for leadership, responsible for building partners in the community, responsible for making sure things are done right. Same with the mayor, same with the other people that I've noted. And none of them are competent, not one. The fire chief is saying now in public that, the person or the mayor, the governor or the mayor or whatever cut our budget by $17 million. It's affecting our ability to respond. No, your budget's like $250 million a year, if not more. I can't remember what the number is, but it's a huge number. That 17 million is marginal. What you should have been doing is forcing the state through media outreach, through other soft pressures, to do forest fire control, forest management, get rid of the brush, find ways to add natural blockades, find ways to add natural firewalls. You didn't do any of that. Instead, the media outreach you did was this heifer telling you that if your husband needs to be carried out, he may as well count himself dead because he's in the wrong spot. How's that? California, third world country. By the way, Newsom, who's another fucking retard, gets on TV and poses for photo ops in fake fire jackets with people who are being taken away from fighting a fire to talk to him, to pose with him while there's like embers flying around and smoke plumes and burning woodland in the back. To your point about whether or not California is a large economy and should be independent, California is the first to whine and cry when the federal government does something they don't like and say, the federal government should respect us more. We're a huge economy. We're this, we're that. And now when I think correctly, some incoming Trump nominees and appointees are saying, yeah, well, from now on, you're not going to get any fucking money from the federal government unless you do proper forest management. For this guy to say, oh, we need that money. This is not the time to be playing politics. Fuck you. You are the scummiest used car salesman looking ass guy I've ever seen. The behavior is unconscionable in the most generous interpretation. It is intentionally criminal in the worst. You mentioned there Mayor Bass flying to Ghana, flying to Paris, flying to wherever the fuck else. She's the fucking mayor of California. The clip floating around of her looking off into space, this 1,000-yard stare, the stare of somebody who is in over their head. While someone asks her questions about, do you have anything at all to say to the people here who have lost their homes? Do you have anything at all to say to the people who are being evacuated? And she's just looking off into space. Like this is what happens when you don't hire on merit. And you can say whatever you want about Joey. It's racist to say this. It's blah blah blah. I don't care if they're all black. Newsom's not black. He's a white guy. He's an idiot too. You know, all these people in California. And Anna Kasparian, good for her, man. You know, she was one of the shining stars of the left for more than a decade. And in the last 6 months has probably undone so much support from her liberal backing and the Young Turks backing for a couple of really high quality, very rational tweets. And one of them was about the fires. Like, people in California are tired of being governed by morons. They don't want to deal with it anymore. And so what is the consequence for any of these people then at the end of the day? For Bass,
nothing is going to happen.
Fuck all. They get away with whatever they want. And, you know, was I a little harsh saying we should execute the mayor? Yeah, maybe, or the fire chief, whatever. But like, she cost you your life, right? Even if you didn't die, your house is gone. You know, you're not going to get that house back. You're not going to get that land back. You're not going to get the same cost. This is the kind of thing that will upend a decade of your life. And even worse, for a guy like Newsom to put out an order today or yesterday saying that, you know, we're going to get rid of all the red tape to make sure these houses go up sooner than they've ever gone up. Like, buddy, you're the one who put the red tape there. Why are you celebrating removing these regulations that don't do anything? They don't add any value. Like, can you believe this guy? He's like the worst of the worst. And all these people should be fired. All these people should be cast away, exiled, you know, Viking funerals for these guys. Because like, what good are any of these people going to do going forward? Any of them. It's just one moron after another. And by the way, it's only in blue states you see this. Where is the story on CBP about the red state that is making harebrained decisions every single week?
Do you remember when Chairman Xi showed up to California?
Yeah, and they cleaned up all the hobos. Yeah, they cleaned up all the hobos like a weekend. Yeah,
there was an area, the homeless, illegal. The shit on the ground, everything. It was a spotless area.
Done now, no problem.
No, it's stuff like that.
Is that not nuts?
Yeah,
it is. It's fucking insane.
Well, let's go on to North stories. We'll go notable North, and it's a troubling stat that was released. And it's from the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. And they released a report indicating that there are 80,000 people in Ontario alone that are homeless in 2024. 80,000 people in Ontario are homeless. That is a small town worth of people that are homeless. Only 16 million people in total live in Ontario. So you can kind of figure out how this works out. If you do the math, I did some thinking here, Joey. You have 80,000 people. Let's say if you want to build a unit for these people, $500,000 It's excessive, right? I mean, I could buy a condo for even,
Yeah, we talked about the cost of these like little homes, right? A few weeks ago, how they're extremely expensive.
I'm going so high here. 500,000. That's a decent amount, right? You could build a decent unit. It will have plumbing. It will have electricity, heat, the whole 9 yards. Maybe even a PlayStation inside.
You won't have to heat it with a fan. I'll tell you that. At $500K.
Do you know how much it would cost to house those 80,000 people at $500,000? That's
400 million.
$40 billion. Now, granted, okay, $40 billion is a lot.
My math is so bad. That's so
no, but it's hard to think. These are very large numbers. But let's remember. So now, 500,000 per unit. I built one for every one of these people at 80,000 people. They all have a unit. $40 billion. Since February 2022, Canada committed almost $20 billion in assistance to Ukraine.
Perfect.
So, doing the math here, that encompasses almost half of the $40 billion. Now you can even go think outside the box. Let's double up occupancy here. Instead of one person per 500,000, let's put 2 people. It would suck, but it's better than living on the streets.
Yeah,
I would say $500,000 a unit, 2 people in it. I think it's doable. You could do it. Boom! Instantly solve the problem. Instead of dealing with sending the money overseas, they just simply built units. But on top of that, you'd also have the added benefit. Now you're building units in Canada, so you're hiring tradespeople in Canada, buying Canadian lumber.
Maybe in Hamilton, there's a story about our city's council deciding to use Chinese-made tiny homes instead of hiring local builders to do it.
Okay, what's the cost of per unit?
Who knows? I'm not sure exactly what it is.
I don't think it's going to cost $500,000 per unit. Then it just makes it. We don't just house the people in Ontario. There's people in BC that are homeless, people in Alberta. So now we can even make this a bigger thing. So I'm just trying to say, look, in a Bitcoin standard, money would be spent a lot better. You wouldn't spend it on a feel good. You spend it on a need. Stuff that has to be spent on. But unfortunately, we live in a fiat environment.
How do you feel about some of these comparisons? Like you brought up the Ukrainian aid there. That's one that really drives me nuts. Like that was a losing cause from the start, and it continues to be a losing cause now. It was a provoked war, to borrow a term from Scott Horton. 20 billion out the door, record number of homeless, record number of food bank users, record number of people living below the poverty line, record number of people who don't have doctors, record number of people who can't get jobs. 20 billion to Ukraine.
And another 440 million.
Coming up.
Just allocated this week.
Right.
They say 65 million in military assistance, and they say 20 million will come from manufacturing of Canadian-made personnel protective equipment and military uniform for women armed forces of Ukraine.
I can't even what comment can we make about this story?
No, nothing. There's no comment.
The thing that should piss you off is is the Ukrainian army really sending women into the meat grinder, like fertile age women to the meat grinder at this point? To just get clipped by some fucking Russian drone or North Korean drone. That is reprehensible. And why would we ever support that? Why?
There may be some atrocities going to, I just don't know. I'm not there. I can't verify anything. But the stuff I can verify, I can see the homeless that are around.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're generating this income domestically, it should be spent domestically. To try to help these people out, and maybe you could elevate them, and then they could be contributing members to society.
And by the way, that improves our lives too, right? It's like that's a good use of taxpayer dollars. People, I think, in the past, and I'm guilty of this too. Sometimes I'm too narrow. My vision is too narrow in terms of where I want my tax money to be spent. But I would support some of my tax dollars being given to programs that help people get out of these tent encampments. I would support that, but they're not going to do it. The same way that New York just added this downtown congestion fee. They don't want you driving downtown anymore. And the governor there, Hochul or whatever, fucking Kathy Hochul, another retard, saying they're going to use it to fix the fucking subways and infrastructure. No, you're fucking not. No, you're fucking not going to do that. It's not going to get better. It's not going to be fixed. Like they throw the money away on shit that no one cares about, that doesn't improve anyone's life materially. And they try to make this case that like, my brain isn't high enough capacity to understand the big picture, how important this 20 billion for women's uniforms in Ukraine is to my way of life. No, that's not true. It's like obviously not true. In Bitcoin, and someone said it in the chat, the chat's scrolled by me at this point, but Bitcoin is a lens at which you can look through everything else. So to your point, Len, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you start to look at everything through this lens of just like waste and incentive, and you can't help but ask, like, why the fuck are we putting up with this? Like, what do you really think that 20 billion goes to the causes they say it's going to?
I have no way to audit this, so I can't say definitively yes or no.
Anywhere. We can't even get the fiscal anchor right. So what is the likelihood that we can patrol every dollar that we send overseas? Is it high? I think it's.
I have no clue.
It's a low probability.
Yeah, I have no clue. But again, without being able to, if they used Bitcoin, for instance, and it was a transparent ledger, then you could see where it's being sent to, who has ownership of it, where it's being spent. It's a game changer in that respect. But if you are on that type of standard, would you spend money on an overseas war when you have all these domestic issues? No. You deal with them first.
You have to, right? There's a flashpoint coming, I think, where people are going to be tired of pretending that they care about these pet causes, these luxury beliefs, right? I don't know when that point is going to be, but I think it's coming sooner than
we've passed it.
Yeah, but where's the uprising? Where's the sort of public, like, why isn't the water boiling a little bit? I don't think we've passed it. We haven't passed it yet.
Every time a poll comes out, remember, Canadians are pacifists by nature, so they're not going to go and they're not going to raise a ruckus. But what's going to happen is when it comes time for them to cast their ballot, and all the polls are showing that the governing party is going to take a trouncing. So that's proof in the pudding.
Yeah.
That's it. Like there's no other way to say it.
That's something, but it's something. But is it enough for real change? Like, we've both been pretty vocal on this show that real change is not coming in the form of Pierre Poilievre. Real change is not coming in the form of Donald Trump. Like, it's just not. That you need more. You need something. Like, the stove is not hot enough yet. It has to. The reality is,
Joey, the change will never be what you or maybe I will want. The only thing you could do is try to improve the surrounding around you. That's it.
Yeah, agreed.
And you could do that by
Bitcoin is big for that, right? Yeah, it's huge for that.
Yes, that's one of the big things, one of the big factors. Yeah. And that's it. Then whatever happens, the rest, you have zero control over it. Let it happen. Don't fret it. Don't fret about it. Just
totally.
But we're on this point. I want to continue down this point too about the problems domestically. Ottawa Food Bank came out this week and said that high demands is causing them a lot of issues, and they're going to reduce the amount of food it's going to provide to programs.
Brutal.
The food bank CEO, Rachel Wilson, says that 98 programs will receive between 20 and 50% less food that they have received in the last year.
Is that a lot? 50%? Is that a lot for someone who's going to a food bank?
It gets worse. Here's the numbers, Joey, because
women's army uniforms. Just
food bank usage is at an all-time high in Ottawa, and there's no doubt about that. But they say that the number has increased more than 90% since 2019. So in 6 years, it's gone up 90%. And they say that 40% of food banks in her organization network have been turned away on a weekly basis due to capacity. So people have coming in looking for food, and they say, we don't have the ability to give you any food. And what do? I have no idea. It's one of the basic necessities. You need shelter, you need food, you need water, you're taking away food, man. Like, you can't sustain yourself. Then you can't work. It's hard to work when you're not taking in the calories. Your body starts to break down. You get more sick easy, and it just snowballs from there. And a human being cannot survive in that type of environment for very long, especially in the fucking cold. On top of this, because Ottawa is notoriously cold in the wintertime. So that's just another signpost, as you call it, Joey. This is pretty bad.
Disastrous. Ottawa is the nation's capital. It is where the, government has its home. And it is arguably, I think we've talked about Ottawa's food bank situation more than any other. Maybe Toronto we've talked about quite a bit, but Ottawa's has come up a bunch on this show.
I don't know if we have. I think it's more generic. We talked about food banks.
Isn't it just sort of nationwide? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. Either way, you're in a position now, if you're a food bank user, where that service has basically become unreliable, I want to say. Maybe. Is that the best way to put it? Over the course of a week, if you got to go 5 times, you're going to get something between 20 and 50% less food. Not to mention, it'll be overrun by fake asylum seekers. We've seen a huge uptick in asylum seekers, or students, I should say, putting in claims for asylum now that they're being told they have to go back. Like I said, the stove is getting hotter, but it's not hot enough yet. We need a little more heat. We got to keep the heat up, because eventually normal people, reasonable people, will have had too much. They will have had their fill of all this nonsense.
Let's talk about this dude, MP Chandra Arya. I hope I pronounced his name correctly, because he's
probably not. You're probably 0 for 2 on names today, but those are some tough ones.
Yeah, I tried. Well,
the CNB governor, you're never going to get that right. That's an impossible ask.
Well, Chandra Arya, I think I had a better. Anyways, my apologies, MP Arya, if I screwed up your name, but he has decided to throw his name in a hat into running for the leadership of the Liberal Party. So he's one of 3. It looks like Carney is going to announce. Freeland just today announced she's going to be running. That's hot off the press. And this guy, Chandra Arya. And I want to focus more on Mr. Arya, because he's very unique in his approach, because he doesn't speak
very generous language there.
He doesn't speak one of the 2 national languages, in that being French. He speaks English, and so French, and he's even commented it. He said it's not a big deal for him. I'm paraphrasing, so it's really the results in which he's going to propose and bring to the table is what really matters, not the French language or lack thereof. So as a prime minister, and that's the person who wins the Liberal leadership will be prime minister, at least for temporarily, who knows for how long. You got to speak French, right? Let's be honest. If I were to do business in Canada, if I were to bring any sort of good into Canada, go to the grocery store, pick up anything from the aisle, and you'll see that it's written in both French and English. There's a reason why you're forced to fucking do something in French, because there's a law requirement for that. The prime minister shouldn't be exempt from this type of requirement. Even a basic understanding, I'll give him kudos if he had that, but he's kind of just almost shitting on it or discounting it.
He doesn't. Yeah.
Come on, man. And I don't know how he got the money to run. Apparently, you had to submit some $350,000 deposit. I think that was number, or $450,000. Wow, that's a lot of money that you have to put down to run as the Liberal leader. But I can understand Carney, where he could potentially have gotten the money. He's got support here and there, and he could raise it through his business.
Carney did, yeah.
And then Freeland, she's been in government for quite some time, so she's made a lot of contacts. So I can understand those two. This guy, I don't know. I see this. It's just
I'm gonna say it. His English is not that good. I've seen 2 appearances from this fella. Okay, one was a prepared statement that he read and then released on Twitter, right? That announcing his candidacy, and the other is the appearance he did on CBC, from which you are pulling the quote, or the approximate quote. It's not the language I use, it's the message. Well, no, moron. It's the language. We have 2 official languages. You don't speak either of them well. One, you don't speak at all. And we can't have that. I'm not opposed to immigrants to Canada becoming prime minister, but you have to have certain skills in terms of communication to be a politician. Because on the global stage, it's important that you can practice statecraft in a competent manner. And what I saw on the CBC was not competent English. That's like B level English.
If he showed up with a Mar-a-Lago with Trump,
where's the photo? We need the photo. I just don't understand. Again, I think it says something about the state of politics that this guy thought he had a shot to win, or that he thought these statements and these public appearances were a good idea. He thinks the bar is so low both in terms of the competition and in terms of what voters expect, that he had a shot. Now, the other side of this, the way more jaded side, way more like, extreme right wing, I'll be on a list or something, is that he just thinks there's enough Indians in Canada that he'll win a lot of votes.
Did you see people have?
Is that a reasonable stance? Like I do see that in a lot of ridings, right? I don't think I'm out of bounds saying that.
Well, Brampton's population alone, I'm not saying much about Brampton, the past year went up 100,000.
Yeah.
So just Brampton alone. So people were signing up their pets to be a liberal, liberal member.
Because it's free. The liberal constitution prohibits charging a membership fee.
So that all you have to be you got to be 14 years old.
Yeah.
I think a resident of Canada.
No, you don't have to be a resident of Canada.
So you can be 14 years old.
Dog, 14, and live in fucking Indonesia. And you can get a vote.
So there's 1 billion people living in India. If they could tap into 10%, that's more than the whole population of Canada.
It's interesting, right? Like, and again, we were
have a Canadian address, according to Boomer.
Boomer says you have to have a Canadian address. I'm not sure about that, Boomer. I haven't heard that anywhere. I've heard that you don't need a Canadian address.
Let's see.
But we can find out. The liberal constitution is, meant to be all inclusive, and it's something they haven't had to revisit in 10 years, and a lot has changed in that 10 years. So I'm not 100% sure that that's the case.
I don't know. It says I don't want to go any further. I have to put my name, email address, and mobile number. So
of course, go figure. So I don't know. The point is that the process is going to be anything but legitimate by any reasonable standard. Like 14-year-olds. This is a 14-year-olds are eating fruit by the foot with their lunch. Like what the fuck do they know?
Historically, though, to give you some context here, the Liberal Party, and I'm sure other parties do this as well, that they allow for the youth segment to send delegates over to vote. So they would have the youth delegation to be active, and that would be the next generation of liberals. And I think other parties do the same thing. So going as low as 14 is not unprecedented for sending delegates.
I'm not saying it's unprecedented. I'm saying it's retarded.
That's just the way,
it's the way it is. Kids are fucking stupid. Like, fuck, I was stupid till I was like 23. I might still be stupid now. I don't know. Like the idea that you give a 14-year-old this under the guise of this is the next generation. Like, what are we talking about? They don't know anything.
Harper, I think, was a young.
I don't care. It was stupid. We have to stop pretending that this is like an important thing to do to give young people power over who's going to lead the natural governing party of the country. This is stupid. It's a stupid idea. You should charge a membership fee. Okay, number one. You should not let anyone buy a membership fee for like during a period where you're picking a new leader. It should only be people who already held the membership. Like these things just make sense. And instead they do exactly the opposite, which is, I guess, looking at the other policies these guys come up with, this is par for the course.
It's almost like it's a general election. If they're opening it up to this degree where anybody could vote as long as you have residence in Canada. And
allegedly,
right?
I'm sure that's true.
So it's almost like a general election, so to speak.
Yeah, you're right, Len.
Did you know that? I think I read this. Why
don't we register? We could do like a video, like how to register and vote in the liberal leadership race. CBP
Stephen Harper was a youth liberal at one time. I think that was.
Here's the dirty secret: every kid is a liberal because they're stupid. They've never paid taxes. They've never worked. They've never thought about where the money's going. They've never needed health care. They've never had a dying relative. Once you get to a certain age, that old adage kicks in. If you're young and not a liberal, you have no heart. But if you are old and not a conservative, you have no brain.
You're using the current definition of the Liberal Party Canada.
Yes.
I'm talking when he was a youth. It was a different time when they straddled the middle section of
the Mulroney, Chrétien. Yeah,
they were more leftist at that time, and then even sometimes they went more right, depending on. But they were in that, so it was different time. So you could say that, but really, being a liberal at that time was different than what it is right now. And who knows? Maybe the Liberal Party may change. And we talked about this last week. I hope that there is going to be a drastic change in the way the party is. Even internally, they've been saying they've been too far left. There's been a lot of MPs that were saying that they went they have to change the direction. And if they do that, rebranded, almost new image.
God, what an undertaking that's going to be. That is going to be an enormous task. Enormous.
It will not be anybody that's running right now.
No.
Freeland is too much tied, regardless of her actions last month. She's too tied to Justin Trudeau.
Well, Trudeau backed the train over her too during his cottage address, right? She was next to me every time we made a big decision. She was my confidant. Like, that was on purpose, I think. But what do I know?
It's going to be the next person. After this, you just deal with this. And then there's going to be a change in the party. It's going to be a 5 to 10 year endeavor before you could figure things out.
Mm-hmm.
But the world, who knows what the world will be like in 5 to 10 years. Right now, the pendulum is swinging more towards the right. In 5 to 10 years, the pendulum will probably be swinging more towards the left.
Maybe.
And if the Liberal Party is back in that position where they're able to capture those votes, maybe they don't have to move anywhere. Maybe they just stay the course and wait for the tides to change. And they just then capitalize on that. It kind of defeats my whole argument that they should go to the center. I hope that they do. But, right, like, it just seems like the extremes in the politics, they get a little bit more extreme, so to speak. Well, not really more extreme, but
they do. The gap between the two parties is getting wider. Let's say that.
It's not the right.
The views aren't extreme because people have them. Yeah, the views aren't extreme because people have them. It's like when people say, "Well, you're a far right, thinker. Or you have far right views." Like, they're not far right. That's what conservatives think now. Conservatives want frozen borders. They want low immigration. They want remigration. They want all these things. That's a mainstream conservative view. You saying it's far right doesn't make it far right. The same way that me saying, calling for communism is far left. It's not far left. Huge chunks of the population don't want to work. They want to tax the shit out of everyone who's productive, and they want to have some kind of communist, some kind of communist existence. And that's not a far left view. That's just the left. That's left on the spectrum now.
Left. Yeah,
it's not extreme left. It's not, because that's the view that a lot of people hold. And so extreme, the idea behind something that's extreme or far in one direction is like, there's a minority. It's like a fringe belief. But it's not anymore. And therein lies the problem, I think.
Communism, by definition, you get rid of money. There's no need for that.
Well, fuck Len. I mean, we've already basically done it, right? In everything but official policy. Have we not done this, basically? It's all fucking free. We're giving it away. Women's army uniforms. Food bank use. I won't say it again, but the value is not there.
Oh, it definitely isn't. And if you're right of center today, and somebody just takes one giant step to the left,
mm-hmm.
the guy on the right, center right is going to be called far right, because now all the guy on the left side did was, or the same could be said. The guy could be center left, and the guy on the right was one giant step to the right. You're so far left, but I haven't moved. I'm just standing in the same spot I was before.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
You fucking change your opinion.
And I just want to finish with saying, I'm hard on the liberals on this show, not because I hate liberals or whatever, but because I think that probably, Len, like, that is the natural governing party. I think you're right about that. And I want to see, like I said, last week talking about the Knicks, like, the politics in Canada is better when the liberals are competent. And right now they're not. They're in tatters. I want to see competent people lead these parties. I don't really think you have it anywhere, right? I don't think you have it in either party.
Oh, and the timing of
is like a whole other story, right? That guy's the least competent of the three, but you don't really have like a real like a transcendent leader. The way that you seem to have one in the U.S. almost every election, one of the two parties has like a really transcendent. I think it's a lot closer than you see here. Like, Trump is transcendent not for his leadership skills, but he's got like skills that make him a very competent politician, right? And here, I don't think we even have competent politicians.
I don't think anywhere has. I think there's just a void.
Competent leaders are different than competent politicians. I should have drawn that distinction.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But I think it's just been and it's just too bad. And right now, especially given what's happening in the United States, now we have this talk about tariffs being put on Canada, and now you have Parliament being prorogued. Man, it's a tough time.
Sounds like a guarantee the tariffs, by the way, right? Danielle Smith talking about her meeting with Trump, that it's a sure thing. 25% day one.
There's one thing that I would like. Here you go. If you are exposed heavily to CAD, you're gonna get fucking wrecked.
Oh yeah. If
this just absolutely obliterated, there's gonna be no chance that the Canadian dollar is gonna retain value if heavy tariffs are imposed on Canada. So you should, in some way, shape, or form, expose yourself not to CAD, to something else. Bitcoin is an option.
I think so too.
Consider it. It's going to be, and we have now a prime minister that's outgoing. We don't know who's going to be replacing him. We didn't know when the next election is going to be called. The House of Commons is not sitting, and you have these tariffs that are going to be potentially imposed on Canada. I mean, not that
Melanie Jolie is going to the States, I think, next week, right? Like lame duck after lame duck.
And it's not like government stops when you go on proroga. Even when there's a election, the executive branch still operates. You still have an MP that represents yourself, and you still have ministers doing their job. The shit still happens even during prorogation, even during election time. Government still operates. But this is now an unprecedented time where you have to probably get stuff debated in Parliament, and it's not going to happen for a couple of months. And crazy time. And even when that happens, when prorogation finishes and they go back into the House of Commons, it seems like almost immediately there's going to be a confidence vote, and it's going to fall, and you're going to go to election. So you're not going to have, if this plays out the way I'm saying, then you're not going to have a prime minister in place until maybe beginning of May. We're June right now. Sorry, we're January right now. It's like the beginning of May. And then
five months, 4.5 months.
Then ministers would have to be sworn in. The new prime minister would have to be brought up. So maybe another month before everything is. So you're talking June, 6 fucking months. That's a long time. If you got exposure to Canadian dollars,
I think CAD's in trouble big time. And not to mention, like, we have our own sort of internal squabbles here that are starting to get louder, right? Quebec, Alberta, little by little, the balkanization of Canada. So this is in the sovereign individual too, man, that governments at the state level or the provincial level will eventually get tired of just poor outcomes as big government tries to scale decision making out to a growing population, a growing set of needs. Doesn't work.
Have an auction off the country.
Yeah,
and then the proceeds go to proceeds go to every Canadian citizen, and then you could do.
I'd be curious to hear what Mayor Sim has to say about all this, because he's politician, big Canadian mayor. I want to hear what he thinks about some of this stuff. Be interesting to hear his perspective, because he's a guy who gets Bitcoin and a guy who is the mayor of like maybe the most liberal city in the country. So he's a contradiction in terms right off the hop. He's going to be. You've been to Vancouver. I've been. I was there for my honeymoon for a couple of days. We landed in Vancouver. My wife and I both said the same thing, that if we ever do that trip again, Vancouver will be nowhere on the itinerary. It is like a difficult city to hang out in.
I've never been.
Yeah, they have some great stuff there. Like, restaurants are good. People were super nice.
Yeah.
But it's like Toronto West, basically.
Yeah, I've never been, but the image I have in my head is what a beautiful city, because you could go, salt water's nearby. You can go to the States easily. You can go to the mountains and ski. You got all this like natural beauty, and then, oh my God, it just seems like an amazing place to live if you could stand the wet winters.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I have in my head. I've never been. Maybe one day.
Don't go. You'll be let down.
Oh man,
keep that pristine image in your mind. Yeah,
I will. Victoria's the place to go.
We went to Victoria, Boomer, on our honeymoon, as well as like some other places, Squamish, Tofino. Yeah, it was a good trip. That was when CBP was in its infancy in 21. Now here we are years later, much more jaded and with many more sats to our name.
Victoria's where I heard that Victoria, somebody told me, is for the newlywed and nearly dead.
That's Dundas, not Victoria.
Is that Dundas too?
Yeah.
And they were saying that like it's not a slight against Victoria. They say it's a great place because in terms of this is what somebody told me years ago. It's safe, good weather,
totally
slower pace of life.
The best, man. The best.
Things are affordable. Like houses are affordable compared to the mainland. So
I like it.
I have nothing to say. I've never been to BC, but it seems like
let's wrap it up. Good show today. France is coming by Wednesday. That's scheduled for 7:00. Every time I talk to Francis, we end up going for 2 hours. So I don't know how long we'll go that night, but I'm looking forward to that quite a bit. So come back then. And until we get to that Wednesday interview, take care of yourselves.
And don't be a cock.